Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X Twitter at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to the latest edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. Well. It gets worse for Warner Brothers Discovery as the Hollywood Reporter broke the news that a debt company, and I don't know exactly the terms of all of this, but basically a debt company, or whatever they are, have reduced the credit rating for Warner Brothers Discovery. What does this mean? They have put it on a minus, which means they can't borrow as much as they once did. And basically, if they do, they're going to have to pay so much more back. A very serious situation for Warner Brothers Discovery. But why has this company decided to do this? Because they are devaluing their television. They are basically pivoting towards streaming. Now, I want you to understand how stupid this decision is from Discovery, Warner Brothers, and Zaslav. They're pivoting away from television, something that works, that has audiences, to something that has no profitability or any profit margins unless you're Netflix. Streaming hasn't worked for Hollywood studios. It's only been successful for Netflix because it's all they do and they understand that business. But even though Max isn't working, is losing subscribers every day, as is Disney Plus, they keep on pivoting more and more. They've been devaluing the Cartoon Network and Boomerang, basically trying, I think they shut down those websites as well, and they're trying to get people to watch that stuff on streaming, because this is how desperate they've become, and this is why their credit rating is so low. But the die was cast a very, very long time ago, boys and girls. Because when you've got rank novices, rank amateurs like Discovery and AT&T who have no scripted entertainment experience, you're in trouble. Because let's look at what some of the decisions Zaslav has been making. He decided, and we've discussed this already, but it's important to remind you of their incompetence. They decided to reboot Harry Potter and take Harry Potter to streaming. So that means the potential of $1 billion box office per movie is gone. The Green Lantern Corps, part of DC Universe, will just be a True Detective-like streaming show instead of an epic movie that could make $1 billion. Again, we've discussed this. The Green Lantern Corps in DC Comics is basically a universe within a universe. It's Star Wars in the DC universe. I say this so many times. The earning potential cinematically is huge. But no, it's been reduced to a streaming show. Basically, the analogy of AT&T and Discovery is Mr. Bean performing open heart surgery. But of course, the die was also cast prior to AT&T, Discovery, and Zaslav. Let's look at Time Warner, which were the company that owned and ran Warner Brothers Pictures and television for a very, very long time. Let's talk about that old nugget of the DCEU. Because they gave Zack Snyder $250 million to make a Justice League movie. They then forced him out of his picture. They then brought in Joss Whedon and they gave him another, $150 million, whatever they did, to basically marvel up the Justice League movie. Same movie, but more marvelized. That movie didn't even make $700 million at the global box office. Income AT&T. After the fans fought to release the Snyder Cut, John Stankey, the CEO of AT&T, gave Zack Snyder another $70 million to finish post-production on the Snyder Cut. There's not the profitability on streaming for the Justice League movie, Zack Snyder's Justice League movie, to make that money back, right? Or even when you release it on physical and digital media, or selling it to TV. There's not that profitability. Now, if they just allowed Snyder's 2.5-hour original Justice League movie to be released, I mean, let's look at what his other DC movies made. Man of Steel, just under 700 million. BVS, just under 900 million. Not brilliant, but not a disaster either. But their greed and hubris got the better of them because they were in competition with Disney and Marvel Studios. So Zack's cinematic Justice League movie could have made around $900 million. Zack would have been promoting it. Zack puts his own trailers together. His marketing drive would have been a lot better than what WB did. Let's not forget that. So they lost so much money on one Justice League movie. And then their DCEU was toast because there was no Snyder anymore. There was Burns and John and there was Hamada. And let's look at what happened. Shazam barely made any money. If it wasn't the fact that it was a cheaply made movie, that movie wouldn't have even made any profit. The only movie under that era was, of course, Aquaman, and we know that James Wan is a wonderful director. James Wan has now gone to Universal to write and direct The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Warner Brothers drove out one of the best horror directors, if not the best horror directors of our time, because they interfered, or James Gunn did, with his Aquaman sequel. Why did you do that, James? Why did you have to do that? You were going to create a new universe. What did it matter what the man did? You had no fucking business interfering with Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. But you did. You lied that the Flash movie is one of the best CBMs in the genre. You lied! Is it any wonder that they've just shipped $11 billion? Is it any wonder that their credit rating is being minused? Basically, think about this. Imagine if the DCEU was as successful as the MCU and they were making around $1 billion a picture. Imagine if they made a Justice League movie that made the same amount of money as Avengers Assemble. The first one written and directed by Joss Whedon. Imagine they had a successful DCEU. Do you think that they would be in the situation they are now? But Warner Brothers Discovery's debt and problems is just the Hollywood tip of the iceberg. They're all in trouble. Look at Paramount. They've just shuttered their TV department. Closed it. Paramount are proud historical studio because they swapped titans of industry for activists who don't know anything about the business of entertainment. But Warner Brothers' problems don't come from wokeness. But if we go back to the DCEU, they sunk money upon money. Birds of Prey, the wrong movie to make. And they allowed Margot Robbie, a third-wave feminist, to run that fucking movie. And then they had to bring in a male director in Chad Zelensky, the genius director who's done John Wick and he's going to do a brilliant Highlander film, starring Henry Cavill as McCloud. Imagine that. The actor that WB hate, that they brought back and then they went, you're not actually going to be Superman, right? Cruel bastards, okay? What does all this mean for DC Universe? Well, as I said a few weeks ago, it puts a lot of pressure on James Gunn because that Superman movie has to cook. And there's no guarantee, as I said yesterday, because as James Gunn shills are all over the internet, they believe that it's a foregone conclusion that's going to be the bestest movie ever. We had all this talk, of course, with the Flash movie. Remember CinemaCon, how they told us it was great? That film was a piece of fucking shit. It was a piece of fucking shit. And we were lied to that it was the bestest movie ever. Like Wonder Woman 84, there was a good version of that movie, because I saw it. I saw the Wonder Woman 84 test screening, which was a lot better than the film we got. I've tried to mention this to you before. Same with the Flash movie, because you may feel I'm being inconsistent about the Flash movie. There was a better version of that film. And I won't go into that any further for obvious reasons. So they've done this to themselves. Warner Brothers' problems are nothing to do with wokeness. The rest of Hollywood's problems are, as well as creative bankruptcy. Look at Disney. Look at Doctor Who. Proud IPs that they are ruining. Russell T Davies at San Diego Comic-Con. I think Doctor Who will be fine. He looked like he was about to fucking cry. Then he's sitting there with Kurtzman, the guy who runs, J.J. Abrams' pal, who runs Star Trek. All of a sudden, they have a mental fit about the trans community. It's more important to help them. I'm not worried about Doctor Who. What are you talking about? You're in the business of fucking entertainment. What has the trans community, and I have nothing to do with that community. Let me say that again. Said the wrong thing there. I have nothing against that community. I have everything to do with that community because I have friends in the trans community. I have friends in every fucking community. I don't expect a Blue Peter badge or a chest to pin it on. Why are you all of a sudden talking about the trans community when you're there to talk about enter-fucking-tainment? They're mad. These are the people who run entertainment. But when you look at someone like Russell T Davies, what's happened to him? He was always left-wing. He was always somewhat of an activist, but not like this. He came back and he gave us a Doctor Who, which was a bag of fucking fresh air. None of it makes sense. But in terms of Warner Brothers, if you really want to know what this actually means, their credit rating being reduced, they are on the verge of destruction. And even worse, they're making the wrong decisions. Now, their credit rating wouldn't have been minus if they didn't start devaluing their TV division. Because their streaming division, which they're pivoting to according to the Hollywood Reporter, is not showing any ups. It's only showing lows. First of all, AT&T decided to call it HBO Max because HBO has got a lot of respect. Big mistake. And then they took the HBO away, which is even fucking worse, and just called it Max. And I said at the time, the normies didn't even know HBO Max or Max has anything to do with Warner Brothers. It should have been called WB Plus or whatever. Warner Brothers should have been in that name. People should know it's a Warner Brothers streaming service. If I'm saying that, it's obvious. Me and you could do a better job of running these entertainment companies because it's not rocket science, boys and girls. Because one of the things that this industry refuses to admit, that they work in a consumer-based industry. It's no different than running a supermarket, a store, right? A 7-Eleven. You treat your customers with respect and you sell to them the things they want. You create things, you market things, and you get them to like them. That's the way it works. You do not go to war with your own customer base, your own audience. Only stupid people do that. And they have done that. Some of the things that was said at Warner Brothers about the fans when they were fighting to release the Snyder Cut. Dumb, dumb, dumb. We're problematic. We're troublemakers. No. We're the customer. We're always right, even if we're not right, because without us, you don't have a business. You're not there fulfilling a hobby. You're not making fan fiction. You're not there to talk about your political opinions. Now, entertainment has always been hugely political, but at least they knew what they were doing. They Me Too'd the guy who founded Pixar for hugging too hard. Look at Pixar now. Forget that they've had one film that's been successful this year. Forget that. Look at what's happened to Hollywood. A system created in the 1920s to entertain the public. And by entertaining the public, they would make money. Harold Lloyd, Chaplin, The Wizard of Oz, Superman 78, Star Wars 77. I could go on all day. Wonderful television shows, a great fucking history. And look at it now. Look at what they've done to something I adored as a kid. Grew up watching a multitude of great television shows and movies. And now they can't make movies. I'm not going to go and watch Alien Romulus, the billionth Alien movie. I'm not interested. I know exactly what they're doing, and it's the usual bullshit. And of course, The reactions from everyone as usual, oh my God, it's the bestest movie ever. The bestest movie ever. And of course it's not. This is where we are today. We have idiots like John Campea defending the entertainment industry because he just wants the place at the table, a place he's never going to have because nobody in Hollywood likes John Campea because he's a twat. He knows as much about movies as I do of directing traffic. So people like that, people like Grace Randolph, who hated the Super Mario Brothers movie. I thought it was a wonderful movie. I thought it was very entertaining. It was pure. There wasn't enough representation. Oh, good. I'll watch it again then. But this is where we are. When you listen to idiots, journalists from Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, when you become too Californian in your industry, this is what happens. This is what they've done. They've eaten themselves alive. George Clooney is doing a lot of talking, a man I used to like a lot, but he's talking utter shit. He's blaming Amazon for the destruction of Hollywood. Now, to a point, the streaming system and the embracement, the chasing of the Netflix money has ruined Hollywood. As I've just said to you, WB's pivoting towards streaming, something that clearly doesn't work for studios, and leaving the old-fashioned model of television, which has got money, more money in terms of sponsorship to be made from it. So Clooney's right in a way, because the streaming model doesn't work, but they're insisting on chasing it. They should be shuttering that down, not their television departments, but they have no clue. They think if they keep on pushing, they can make the money that Netflix is making. Because Netflix are doing well with streaming. Maybe not as well as back in the good old days prior to the pandemic, but they're making money. Max isn't making money. Disney Plus isn't making money. Apple TV isn't making money. And Apple TV is an interesting one because they've invested so much in bringing quality television and film to that platform, and they're still not making any money. Because streaming doesn't work for these studios. But they continue to put themselves in debt chasing the Netflix green, and it's not working. And they don't understand. How can Netflix make money out of it and they can't? Because Netflix don't run studios. Netflix is the studio. And they're in the business of streaming. And Netflix have got current day issues as well. With wokeness and nonsense like that. And it's damaged their reputation, but they're still making money. The rest of them are in huge trouble. And I think that Warner Brothers will be the next one to go. I mean, in terms of Paramount, they're trying to negotiate some kind of partnership, buyout. I don't know if it's happened yet, but they're trying to save themselves. But whatever they do, whatever new leadership or new merger they do, they are fucked. And as for WB, Time Warner sold Warner Brothers Pictures. They sold it to AT&T. AT&T ran it into the ground because of their inexperience. And then they merged with Zaslav and Discovery. That hasn't worked out well because Zaslav, and he's admitted it, has no experience of scripted entertainment and he's made mistakes. Basically, tax writing off movies isn't what you do. You know, the Batgirl thing will never get old for me. Having seen it and enjoyed it more than the other DCEU movies that were released last year, it's clear that Zaslav is a dunce. Someone put a dunce cap on David Zaslav. This guy should not be running WB. Taking Green Lantern and Harry Potter, removing that potential of $1 billion box office per movie and shuttering it on streaming is not a good idea. But he did that. He hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue because all he's got is facts and figures. He doesn't understand the industry they're in. You've either got people like AT&T and Zaslav who are clueless. They're business people, but they don't understand the business of entertainment because they've all driven away the great entertainment moguls. They've all gone. They've all been Me Too'd or whatever, because most of those people are probably straight white guys who were driven out of the industry because Californians are fucking insane. So there you go now. You've got a bunch of people who don't know how to fix the damage that they have created. So Warner Brothers are going to go bankrupt unless someone can buy them. So they're going to have to sell again. They're allowed to talk to people for a merger or a sale, because that is the reality here. It's interesting that Snyder fans predicted all of this and we just went, nah, you're just bitter. I'm a Snyder fan. I love the DCEU that Snyder was involved with. And let's not forget the other dumb decision that Time Warner made. Not only did they go away from what Zack was doing, they first of all went away from what Goyer and Nolan did with Man of Steel. Reactive, chasing that Marvel money. And they could never catch up. They spent hundreds of millions upon hundreds of millions chasing Disney and Marvel, only to make their own situation much worse. Now, there isn't a DCEU anymore. It's a DC Universe. They went from Marvel, they're still obsessed with Marvel. So they went for a Marvel director in James Gunn to run DC Universe. How's that going to work out? When the guy is really only interested in Peacemaker and little small characters, how much money is in that? How many people are interested in Creature Commandos or Peacemaker? Even though he made that character successful, he's good at doing that. But what is the profitability in that? Was it a wise move to have Superman launch DC Universe, as much as I love that character? Maybe a Green Lantern Corps movie would have been a better idea to launch DC Universe cinematically. People are dying out for an epic Green Lantern Corps movie. We had one that wasn't good enough, right? We know that. They could have learned from those mistakes, but WB never learned, no matter who's running them. So instead of a Green Lantern Corps launching a DC Universe, that would have been very, very exciting. Because the Green Lantern Corps isn't just John Stewart and Hal Jordan. There's so many things to it. It's very Star Warsy, it's very interesting, it's very epic if you know what you're doing, if you understand it. And I don't know all of it. That movie, launching DC Universe, makes sense. It's fun, it's bold, so you've got like the superhero genre and sci-fi at the same time. So people would have been interested. I'm wondering how many people are interested in a Superman movie. Is there real hype for it? Again, as much as I love the character, he's my favourite character in fiction, but at the end of the day, we have to be honest about situations. And as I said many times before, it was Zaslav's idea to launch DC Universe with Superman. Why? Because he's thinking about the good old days of WB and Superman 78. But James Gunn's not going to make Superman 78. I don't want him to make Superman 78. But James Gunn doesn't have faith in the character of Superman because he's introducing other DC characters. And if you've got other DC characters in a first Superman movie, it means you don't respect the character. You don't think the character can do it by just telling his story. There's enough there. I mean, think about Man of Steel. Most people didn't like the director. They didn't like the tone. They didn't like the destruction. They didn't like Superman killing. But still, that movie made just under 700 million. That's amazing. That means there is money to be made out of a Superman movie. So if James Gunn has got it right, maybe this is the right way to go. But it's very difficult to please people over a Superman film. So we'll see. As I said yesterday, he's running out of time. He's not going to be able to hype people up for long. He's going to have to produce a trailer next year, and teaser trailers and posters. He's really going to have to convince everyone that he knows what he's doing. David Corenswet as Superman. I like David. I think he's a wonderful actor. I think he'll be a better Clark Kent than a Superman. I don't really think his face, maybe it's just me, is a Superman type face. Maybe. But the truth is, no one's ever going to fit that character like Christopher Reeve did. Now, Henry Cavill has a lot of fans, but they went away from Cavill. Probably the most popular version of Superman since Christopher Reeve, and then Tom Welling, who was extraordinarily popular as Superman and Clark Kent. Whether you like him or not, Whether you like the Snyderverse, whether you like what Goyer and Nolan did with that first Superman movie, it'll be interesting to see if we compare James Gunn's Superman to Man of Steel, because there was a lot of complaints about Man of Steel. So what kind of complaints, if any, will we get about James Gunn's Superman movie? Oh boy, they don't know what they've got coming to them. Do you remember the reaction for the first reveal of the costume? That is just the tip of the iceberg, boys and girls. This is Superman. Nobody cares about Guardians and what they're wearing. Nobody cares about the Suicide Squad and what they're wearing. People care about what Guy Gardner's wearing and what Hulk Girl's wearing and what Mr. Terrific's wearing. Now, the Mr. Terrific costume is great. I agree. Should Mr. Terrific and Hulk Girl and Guy Gardner be in a first Superman movie? How much are they going to be in this Superman movie? How big a part do they play in this movie? These are questions that you or I can't answer at the moment. I always get that wrong, because I'm facing that way, right? Idiot. But yeah, these are questions we can't answer right now. They're questions I've asked a million times. There's half of me thinking, yeah, it's a living, breathing DC universe from the beginning. That could be really good. But it could also reduce Superman's role. Now, he claims this film is all about Superman and a good guy being in a world where people don't trust good people, right? So if he does do that, I think it's the right kind of thing to do. So I'm looking forward to the movie, and I'm open to it being good. I'm not sitting here wishing for Warner Brothers to go bankrupt just because of what they did to Snyder and Goyer and Nolan, blah, blah, blah. That's not how I work. They own DC. I want them to be successful. I want film in general, entertainment, television as well, to be successful. But you can't be successful when you have rank amateurs and activists running a once great industry. There's no one there who understands the industry they're working in. You think about someone like J.J. Abrams, who did so many wonderful things: Alias, Felicity, Lost, Fringe. That's a man who once upon a time understood entertainment. He still understands it, but he became an activist. He became all about representation and inclusion and making political standpoints rather than making great entertainment. So they're all being eaten alive by the Trump situation, and it's destroyed entertainment. The Me Too situation, where they're, forcing out good people who haven't done anything wrong, by the way. In their eyes, it's wrong, but they haven't done anything wrong. The X-Men animated guy who they fired, they're claiming he was, apparently sending stuff to young people. But here's the thing, that's wrong. If he's done it, he deserves to be fired. But why? When it comes to their other friends, they cover it up. There's even women who have sent news to young men. Why are those women still working in Hollywood? Woody Allen, think about him for a minute. I don't want to go into that too deeply, but we all know about Woody Allen, right? So, loves young women, doesn't he? So, there's so many problematic people in that industry, but they're busy lecturing us about our behaviour. And now they're on the verge of bankruptcy. But there's no question, Warner Brothers are going to go. They're going to go. They have to be sold immediately. Because when you're in the business of entertainment and you've got to spend hundreds of millions on movies and television, you need that infrastructure. And if debt companies are reducing the amount you can borrow and putting you on a minus, that means your company is in serious trouble. But Zaslav has done this. He's taken certain tactics to salvage Warner Brothers' debt problems, but he's made the situation worse. Devaluing Warner Brothers Television, a proud department of WB for so many years. I think about the WB network, then the CW, which we used to make fun of, but actually, when you think about it now, it's better than HBO Max. It had better entertainment, a variety of entertainment. Supernatural, Smallville, The Vampire Diaries. Yeah, it was a bit silly with really good looking people and all of that, but it worked for the youth of that time. Now entertainment has nothing. They've made a Superman movie on the cheap. Yes, boys and girls. How's that going to work out? We still don't know how much Superman was budgeted for. Don't be surprised if it's just under 100 million. No, not just under 100 million. I mean, I'm making mistakes today, I mean just over 100 million. Maybe 120, 130 million. That's cheap for a Superman movie compared to Man of Steel. Will it tell in the production? Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. July 2025 can't come soon enough for me, because James Gunn can't hide behind the length of time he has to wait till the release. We're getting closer and closer to the release. And if it's not very good, people will let him know.